Hello, this is Kiala Givehand of Giving Hands Creative, and I'm coming to you today, Sunday, November 10th at 4:11 in the afternoon for Book in a Day 45. So, I was struggling today with what book to do, and I did some other stuff earlier, and then I started going back through books that I made when I was doing my MFA program at Mills, studying under Julie Chen. And one of the books we did was a Coptic bound book, and so I decided I'm going to do a blank art journal using the Coptic stitch. And I just wanted to show you two that I've done in the past. This one was intended for my mother-in-law, and unfortunately she passed away one day before I was giving it to her, the day before. So she never actually got to see it, but I know she's up there looking down at it now, so it's all good. But this was the second Coptic that I made, and so I just did. She was an artist, very creative woman, and this was watercolor paper, and then I had black, just black Canson paper on the outside of each of the signatures, just to give it. I wanted it to be black on the edge, on the binding here. So anyway, that was the second one that I did. The very first Coptic I ever created was for a class, and we actually did we were supposed to design our own Coptic design. And I guess this really wasn't the first one. This was probably the second one, and maybe the book for my mother-in-law was the third one. But this one was probably our second one, because I think she taught us just traditional Coptic stitching. Then she taught us how to make designs with the stitching if we wanted to do something a little fancier. So that was I guess probably my first attempt at something that wasn't just straight lines for the stitching. And it's just a blank book with writing paper in it. This paper really probably is not designed to take any kind of wet media or paint. I probably could use markers maybe in it, I don't know, but at the time when I created it, was created for writing and not for making art, so it just has text weight paper in it, but it's got a lot of signatures. So the thing I really love about a Coptic bound book, if you've never used one, is that they open flat, so it's really great for art journaling in that way. So with all of that said, but for today I'm going to do a Coptic stitch, Coptic bound journal, art journal, using watercolor paper, Bristol paper, and then just some really thin book board. So I don't want my cover, to be just this board, so I'm going to cover that with, I think I'm actually going to do some collage over the top of this with some old papers that I have. And I'm probably not going to be able to show you all of my stitching on camera, but I'm going to do it, but I don't know that I can like turn and angle in a way that will make it easy for you to see. So I'm going to put some links in the bottom in the comment section to a couple of YouTube videos you can find. I know Sea Lemon, I think is her name. She has a bunch of DIY bookbinding tutorials online, and so she probably has one on Coptic. I'm almost certain I've seen it come up in my list before of things that I should watch based on YouTube's suggestion. So I'm almost certain that one's there. So I will find a couple of ones that I think are pretty good in terms of showing you how to do the stitch where the camera is actually angled on the stitching. But I suspect that you're not going to be able to see me doing much of the stitching because just of the way that my camera is angled. So I'm going to be using, like I said, thin book board, watercolor paper, Bristol paper. I have 3 different papers that I'm using. I think I have some 90-pound watercolor hot pressed, some 90-pound watercolor cold pressed, 140-pound, this is 140, cold pressed, and then some Bristol board, or some Bristol paper. So these are obviously going to get folded, but I'll do that later. And then the book board, my needle, some waxed thread, and what else? My bone folder, I'll be using that. And Oh, and an awl, obviously, to poke holes through the board and through the signatures. Okay, so most of this is just going to be sped through and music for you to listen and watch, and then I'll come back at the end and chat a bit about the book and show you the final product. I will see you on the other side. Okay, beautiful people. Book 45. Is that right? Yeah, 45 is done. I'm calling it Coptic Memory because several things. Number one, it has been, I don't know, 3-4 years since I did a Coptic stitch. And so, yeah, that was fun trying to remember that. And I can look really closely and see where I went wrong and where I went to the wrong side and came in out of the wrong side and forgot to go through. So it's not a hard stitch once you learn it. And yeah, if you learn it, you need to keep doing it, I guess, or you lose some of it. So I had to do a lot of memorying, going back, looking at my others. I even pulled up a couple of videos because I was like, wait, what am I doing? But I'm happy with it, which I think that ends up being the case with almost every book I do for Book in a Day, because I keep reminding myself I made it in one day. So I'm not going to be too hard on myself about a book that I made in one day. And literally, this book, what, 3 hours? 3 or 4 hours? I think I started in the 4 o'clock hour, and it's, woo! And it is 7:48 p.m. So, yeah, to me that's quite quick in terms of Coptic, making a Coptic bound book. So I do, you know, apologize that I just couldn't get all of the sewing on camera, but I think I mentioned that in the beginning that I probably wouldn't, because I knew I needed to be turning and flipping and looking. And so yeah, it's just a blank journal, lace flat, which I like about Coptic. I have a colophon there. So what I did is these outside pieces are collaged. Bits and pieces from Gelli Plate printing, and some pieces from the workshop I did with Tracy Bautista a month or so ago. So yeah, just bits and pieces of artwork that I've done so far. And then on the inside I did black gesso, and so usually people put a piece of paper on the inside of this, but I opted not to do that this time. I just folded over my edges. And then I did black gesso on the inside, and I went over it with a pearlized sort of a greenish white pearl metallic craft paint. Because I like that shimmery kind of look. And yeah, that's it. I put a title on, again, on just stamped onto a collage piece of paper, torn piece of paper from one of my other projects, or some under paper or something. Who knows where it came from. I just kind of saved bits and pieces for this kind of thing. So yay and yay. Book is done. Colophon is done. I'm happy. I am happy. So other things you didn't see on camera, when I glued these all down, I didn't want the board to warp, like to bend. So I wrapped it inside of a Teflon craft sheet and put it under weight, under bricks, with 2 pieces of board. I think that board is called PVC board, don't quote me, but board that I got from the hardware store basically, and put it in between those 2 inside of a craft sheet, because craft sheets, you know, the glue won't stick to them. So it was still kind of wet with glue. And I put it in between the craft sheet, put it under weight so that it would dry flat. And I did that for both covers before I came back and started sewing and doing all that. So while they were drying, I folded the pages. Yeah, I folded the pages. So the book is done, and I'm excited. All right, so if you've been following the blog and sort of paying attention to all the craziness that's happening over here, you'll know that I have started introducing and talking about the mixed media inspiration deck that I created. And it's a deck of cards that are designed for mixed media artists and art journalers. And the idea is that you can deal yourself, this deck is brand new, so you can shuffle these and use them like playing cards in a way. And you can deal yourself, you know, that's 10. You could deal yourself 10 and say, I just want to do a quick journal page. I'm going to do whatever the 10 things on these cards suggest that I do. And so yeah, they have different inspirational directives on them. They're not designed to stifle you or to tell you exactly what to do. They are really designed to give you inspiration and where to go next with your work. And they really are a great way to invite serendipity into your artwork. So let's say you are one of those folks who starts to see that your work is starting to have the same sort of look every single time, and maybe you want to switch it up a little bit. So you can use the cards for that. You can pull, you know, you can do your art, pull a card, and in that moment just do whatever it says on the card. Or you can deal yourself a set number of cards, a small number, and just go through each card one at a time and do that to your art journal or your canvas or whatever it is you're working on. So the idea is that, number one, invite serendipity into your artwork. That's the biggest sort of catalyst for this deck. The second way is to just inspire you to maybe try something different that you haven't tried before, or a combination of things that you haven't tried before, to work in a different order than you typically work in, and just see what you get. So, and then the other thing is to, I work with a lot of people who tell me that they find themselves in a creative lull a lot of the times, and so they also were inspiration for this deck. So there's more information on the blog. There's a whole blog post about the Mixed Media Inspiration deck and the blog hop that's coming up in December. So make sure that you are signed up for all the different places, because of course there's going to be a huge giveaway at the end of that. And shortly after you see this video, it may already be up, but depending on when you see the book in a day video for 45, there will be several tutorials on, not really tutorials, but just sort of sped up art journaling process where I'm actually using the cards to make journal pages. So I'll show you one. If you haven't already seen the video by the time this comes out, here's one page that I created recently using the Mixed Media Inspiration deck, and it just says serendipity, finding something good without looking for it. And that's really what the deck is all about. It's about allowing your muse to take over for a little while, play, and just see what comes of it. This is completely probably something I may or may not have ever really done, but I just dealt myself 10 cards, 11 cards, and I just did them in the order that they were dealt in. And I just let go and had fun. So I hope that you will go out and create something beautiful today. And make sure that you check out my blog and all the wonderful things I have coming up. I'm really excited about how the end of the year is wrapping up, and I have so many wonderful and exciting things to come in 2014. So again, this is Kiala Givehand signing off for Book in a Day 45, Coptic Memory. And I really, really encourage you to go out and create something beautiful. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great week.